Hello and welcome back to Talking Europe. We've mentioned Poland in the context of the abortion debate, and now we're going to focus on other developments in that country. Liberals in Poland and outside it are worried about what they see as authoritarian tendencies. Since the Law and Justice Party came to power last year, EU officials have accused the Polish government of trying to control the Constitutional Court, the civil service, and state media. And the Council of Europe, the continent's human rights organization, says that Warsaw's moves threaten democracy and the rule of law. In July, the European Commission gave Poland a 3-month deadline to respect the EU's democratic standards or risk losing its voting rights. Poland's ruling party blasted the ultimatum as going way beyond the power of EU treaties. Well, my guest today founded a citizens' movement last November to oppose the government's direction. Mateusz Kijowski is the head of KOD, the Committee for the Defense of Democracy. Welcome to the program.
Welcome.
Give us an outline of what KOD is and how did it start?
I created a group on Facebook because I thought we could discuss with friends about these issues, exchange materials and so on. But for 3 days, the group grown to more than 30,000 people, which were coming very massively, asking to create a movement, to create an organization, to go to the street, to go for protest, because they wanted to show they don't agree with the direction that the Law and Justice Party was setting up. And basically, the things that were happening at the beginning, it was not swearing in by the president 3 judges of the Constitutional Tribunal, which is they were properly elected by the previous parliament. But then the president said, no, I won't swear in. The procedure needs them to be sworn in to be able to work in the Constitutional Tribunal. Then the president gave the act of grace to a politician who was previously accused for abuse of power as chief of the Secret Service. And then in the new government, he was established as a minister for the responsible for all the secret services. He gave him the act of power, the act of grace, but
He pardoned him, basically.
Yeah.
So your movement was basically, it coalesced around that particular event initially.
Yeah, it was called about the many situations. We saw the debates in the parliament, just the new parliament, where there was no debate because the governing majority was shouting the mouths of the opposition. They didn't give the right to speak. We saw a member of the parliament who was punished by a high financial fine because he spoke too long. And this was disgusting. This broke our dignity, because we saw that there is somebody who doesn't want to speak with us, who doesn't want to listen to the people. He just wants to realize his own visions, and he's not interested in anyone else. So then we started to organize first in a Facebook group, but very quickly we started to go to the streets. We were first time at the Constitutional Tribunal place on the 3rd December, and on 12th December we organized the first march, which was a big success. There were more than about 70,000 people who came there and showed that they don't agree with the new governing majority.
Do you feel a bit alone, or do you sense that the European Union is actually acting in a way that supports you with concrete actions?
Now, of course, this is very difficult because, as you mentioned in the introduction, there are some people in Polish government or in the governing party who say that this is far... it's not in the competences of the European Commission or any institutions of Europe to discuss about the democracy in Poland. But of course, we signed the agreements, we signed the treaties, we agreed to respect the European values. So if Polish government, which officially represents the whole state, breaks the law, breaks the constitution, breaks the basic rules of Europe, it's obvious that the European institutions should react.
Well, you've been in touch with Franz Timmermans, the EU commissioner who's in charge of monitoring developments concerning the rule of law in Poland. As I said in the introduction, there is this 3-month deadline for Poland to comply with the EU's standards. Do you really think the EU will go so far as to try to take away the voting rights of Poland in the Council of Ministers?
Well, you never know. It's a decision which is made by the governments. So it's prepared politically between the governments. Probably there will be one government which will say veto, and then this will be not possible. But in the legal means, this of course should happen. Of course, we wouldn't like this, we as Poles, because we want the pressure to be posed on the Polish government, on the people who govern in Poland, and not on the Poland as a country, because many people in Poland, most people in Poland are pro-European, and they would like to be a part of a community. So we would like the pressure to be distinguished, to be focused very precisely on the government, on people who keep the power, and not to punish the citizens.
I hear what you're saying, but any kind of punishment from the European Union, whether it targets very specifically this elite or not, it's going to play into the hands of nationalists in Poland anyway, in a more broad sense, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. This is what we expect that they will say, that the government will say also, that you see, the bad Europe is punishing you because you democratically elected your government. So this is why we are trying to establish good communication paths, to exchange information and to show that the pressure is coming from both sides with the same message, from the side of Europe, from the side of America, and from the side of citizens. If we all speak with the same language, if we all give the same message, then it's much more difficult to build distinctions between, the bad Europe, the bad world, and the good Poles who are in their own closed circle.
I understand. Mateusz Kijowski, there's an added complication in this relationship between Warsaw and Brussels, and that is the president of the European Council, Donald Tusk, is a Pole, and he is no friend of the current leader of the ruling party in Poland, Jarosław Kaczynski. Let's take a quick look at this, a closer look at this fraught relationship. Anaïs Guérard has the story.
Donald Tusk and Jarosław Kaczynski have for years been the two great rivals of Polish politics. Tusk twice saw election to Prime Minister at the head of his Liberal Civic Platform party before leaving for Brussels in 2014 to head up the European Council. A year later, Jarosław Kaczynski's Law and Justice Party came back to power. It would send the nation into a turn to the right. A recent proposal for a near-total ban on abortion was one example that spurred EU criticism of Poland's new direction, with Tusk himself underlining his opposition to the conservative push. Over in Brussels, he's enamoured himself as an effective chief by member states. They're likely to support him for a second term, especially with Brexit talks already looming. Back home, though, Kaczynski looks to be the fly in the ointment, saying he won't back Tusk. The Conservative leader could do without a powerful critic in Brussels, but he doesn't want Tusk back in domestic politics either. Now Kaczynski and his allies are looking at other ways to trip him up, initiating a fresh investigation into the 2010 Smolensk air crash. The disaster eviscerated the Polish government, which was on its way to Russia for a memorial ceremony. Dozens of officials died, including Kaczynski's own twin brother Lech, who was the president at the time. Jarosław has always said he considers Donald Tusk to be at least morally responsible for his loss.
Mateusz Kijowski, can you imagine the situation where the Polish government would be the only EU country not to back Donald Tusk for another term at the head of the EU Council?
Well, unfortunately, it's very possible. It's so strange. It never happened, I believe, that the country wouldn't support one of the most known, but the best known politicians in the world. Donald Tusk is doing quite well, as far as I know. I never heard really big complaints about his activity as the chief of the Council of the Europe. And I think this would show that the Polish government doesn't have any connection with the European reality. Probably this is already shown by the interview that Mr. Kaczynski gave to La Repubblica last week, and it was published today also in Le Figaro, Le Soir, and Die Welt, and El País. But it shows that there is no real connection between the reality in which the Europeans live and the reality in which the Polish government lives.
But, I mean, that's that's something which, again, is used, I suppose, to fire up the base and people who want Poland to be, as they would say, a sovereign country. It definitely rings a bell for all those people who responded to Brexit, who respond to similar sentiments across Europe about national governments needing to take control from Brussels. That has resonance, doesn't it?
Yeah, of course, but this doesn't has anything to do with the sovereignty. We have a very good politician who is well known, who is respected in Europe and in the world. He's in a very important position. If he's there, he works like our ambassador. He really strongly supports the role of Poland in the world. So if we are against him, this looks like we are not interested in what the world thinks of us. We don't have any other candidate for this place, of course.
Mateusz Kijowski, I want to ask you about a recent event, the abortion ban, and the Polish parliament itself withdrew the legislation which was going to enact an almost total ban on abortion in Poland. Do you see this as a turning point?
I think that the turning point is in the midst of society. That people understood that if there is a serious problem, they can go to streets, then they can show what they think, they can show what they want. The abortion problem was present in the public area for many years, many times, and never people went to streets, never so massively. Now we had the protests in almost 200 cities in Poland. This is a really huge protest, and there were many people who just went to work in black clothes to show that they support the black protest and so on. This was really a huge social movement, and you cannot, nothing will be like it was before.
Well, obviously they came out in very large numbers on this specific issue, but in terms of a more sustained opposition to the government, you've got a problem, haven't you? Because you are basically willing to make a bridge to Civic Platform, the main opposition party, but you yourself are not a political party. So there isn't really a sort of coherent plan for 2019 for the
No, we are not. We are
elections.
not building a bridge with a specific party. We are trying to make all the opposition parties to cooperate. We invited all the democratic powers to create a coalition, which is called Freedom, Equality, Democracy. They already came there in many of them. It's about 20 parties now. Two of them are in the parliament, but the Civic Platform didn't enter yet. There are many people in Civic Platform who would like to join us, but there are some who are not decided. So this is, the party which lost the power after 8 years of governing. They have some internal affairs to close first.
But aren't you just going to split the left-wing vote then, as that's going to help the law and justice in 2019?
No, we are preparing all the pro-democratic parties to cooperate because we strongly believe that for the moment, the most important thing are the values, are the basis of the system, the democratic fundamentals. We have to stand all together around those values. If we are going divided into left, center, right, then we cannot do anything. We have to go together to be the biggest power and to take over the power. And then they can divide into the different parties according to their programs.
Speaking of values that you want people to rally around, it was interesting to see cooperation agreement actually between your movement and the Catholic Church in Poland on the issue of refugees.
Well, there is not a strict agreement, let's say, but this is really the one theme where the governing party is against the church and the church is against the ruling party. Because during the campaign, Mr. Kosinski even said that the migrants have some bacteria that are not dangerous for them, but if they will come here, they will kill us with these bacteria and so on. It's so stupid, awful things. But the church is absolutely clear, and they announced that every parish should invite one family and should take care. So these really good ideas, which are coming from Pope Francis, of course, I believe. But this is the place where we could cooperate probably somehow. We strongly believe that we should start with education, and we are doing this, of course, for now. Because people in Poland, after the campaign, they don't understand well the problem of migrants. And we need to explain it more, because if people don't understand, they are in fear. But if they understand, they can manage with the problem.
So that's going to be one of your main tasks for 2019, before the parliamentary election?
Well, it depends. We don't know exactly what themes will be most important. Probably before 2019 we will have political prisoners and so on, and there might be some more important issues. But for sure, this is one of the most important, because we are aware that the migrations in the world will grow, and there is no way to stop them. So we just have to be prepared.
Just on a final point, talking about migrants, do you see Poland going in the same direction as Hungary under the leadership of Viktor Orban?
Well, for sure, Poland is going in the direction of the non-democratic country, illiberal democracy, which rather should be called illiberal regime. This is the idea that is realized by the governing party. They are dismantling all the democratic institutions. They are closing the debate. They are taking the absolute power. They pretend that they are trying to show that the winner takes all, and there is no space for any minorities. So this is the dictatorship of majority. This is not a democracy. This is not a modern democracy. This is, of course, the same direction. However, I believe there are some different motivations, but we should go in deep in another discussion. So maybe we don't have time for it. It's going to have to be
another time now. We've actually run out of time. But thank you so much for being my guest, Mateusz Kijowski, the head of KOD, the Committee for the Defense of Democracy in Poland. And that's all for this particular edition. But stay tuned. More international news coming up on France 24.
Thank you very much.